The EU-US trade deal was signed at Donald Trump's Turnberry golf resort in Scotland, after tense high-level talks with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. It ends months of economic deadlock and imposes a 15% tariff on most EU goods entering the US. But this so-called breakthrough may not be what it looks like. This one deal is set to channel nearly $1.4 trillion into the American economy, $750 billion in energy purchases, and $600 billion in promised EU investments.
So Europe's paying $1.4 trillion for the privilege of being tariffed? C'est parfait. Sounds like a deal of the century.
But here is a twist. Small European businesses now face tariffs up to 10% higher than before. What was once a modest 1.5% rate has jumped to a flat 15%. Germany's automakers are already reporting $1.5 billion in losses this year alone, and everyday exports like wine, cosmetics, and specialty foods left completely exposed. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's find out, is this really a fair deal or a calculated takeover? At first glance, the numbers are staggering. As part of the new EU-US trade agreement, the European Union has committed to investing $600 billion into the American economy. On the top of that, it will spend another $750 billion on US energy products, including oil, liquefied natural gas, nuclear fuel, and high-tech semiconductors over the next 3 years. That's nearly $1.4 trillion flowing directly into the United States.
In exchange, the US agreed to scale back its planned 30% tariffs on most European goods to 15%. But while that might sound like a compromise, it still means a massive jump from the average EU tariff level of just 1.5 to 2%. Worse yet, key European exports like wine, cosmetics, and specialty consumer goods will face the full 15% with no exceptions. Some industries made it out clean. Aircraft parts, semiconductors, and some medical and industrial components will enjoy zero tariffs. But others didn't get so lucky. Steel and aluminum from the EU will still face punishing 50% tariffs when entering the US. So who really won? The US energy, defense, and tech sectors are clear winners, with guaranteed demand and investment locked in. Meanwhile, the losers are piling up in Europe. Small businesses struggling with rising costs, German automakers hit hard by new levies, and Irish exporters left stuck between two different trade regimes.
So with such huge sums and big winners on one side, do you think this deal really balances the playing field? Or is it stacked in favor of the US? Share your personal thoughts in the comments below. On the US side, the deal is being hailed as a huge victory. JD Vance called it a massive win. And President Trump himself brags that it was the biggest deal ever made. The White House sees it as a proof of Trump's negotiation skills and strengths on the global stage.
In Europe, the official story is more cautious. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described the agreement as a necessary rebalancing of trade relations. But behind closed doors, many EU negotiators admitted they were under serious pressure and had little room to push back. Why? Europe's economy has been struggling with slow growth and uncertainty. At the same time, the EU relies heavily on US security guarantees, especially through NATO. The threat that the US could limit military support or arms shipments to Ukraine hung over the talks like a shadow. This created a tough bargaining position for Brussels.
The reality is clear. The EU had limited options, and the US knew it. What looks like a deal between equals may actually be a story of one side retreating under pressure and the other seizing the opportunity. Small and medium-sized enterprises known as SMEs make up 99% of all non-financial businesses in the European Union. They're the backbone of the economy, employing millions and driving innovation. Yet this new trade deal hits them hardest.
Suddenly, these businesses face a flat 15% tariff on most goods exported to the US, an enormous jump from the previous average rate of just 1.3 to 2%. Unlike large corporations, SMEs get no exemptions, no special conditions, and no relief to help them cope. On top of higher tariffs, SMEs now face growing regulatory challenges. New rules on product origins, labeling, and paperwork add layers of complexity that large companies can handle with in-house legal teams, but most small businesses simply don't have those resources. The result is a costly, confusing maze that slows down exports and stifles growth. What's at stake? SMEs account for about 40% of all EU exports to the US and employ millions of workers across Europe.
With this deal, many of these companies find themselves on the brink, struggling to survive in a tougher, more expensive market. The deal may bring headline numbers, but for thousands of small businesses, it feels like a crushing blow. Germany, the industrial heart of Europe, is taking a heavy hit. Volkswagen alone reported 1.3 billion euros in losses in just the first half of the year due to the new US tariffs. While the 15% rate may look like a reduction from the previous 27.5%, industry leaders say it's still devastating.
Both the Federation of German Industries, BDI, and the Chemical Association VCI have warned that the new terms offer little relief and certainly no competitiveness against US or Asian rivals. For a country already grappling with economic stagnation and manufacturing decline, this deal pours salt into the wound. Meanwhile, in Ireland, the consequences are playing out along one of Europe's most delicate political borders. Northern Ireland, covered by the UK-US trade arrangement, now pays just a 10% tariff. But the Republic of Ireland, bound by the EU's New Deal, faces the full 15%. That 5% gap may sound minor, but symbolically and economically it's massive. It disrupts cross-border trade dynamics and risks destabilizing the fragile balance set by the Good Friday Agreement.
As these imbalances grow, so do intra-European tensions. What was meant to be a unified trade stance is now turning into the patchwork of winners, losers, and rising resentment. The ink wasn't dry on the deal before global markets jumped into celebration. European stock indexes surged. France's CAC 40 rose 1.1%, Germany's DAX index climbed 0.7%, and the UK's FTSE gained 0.37%. Luxury auto giants like Mercedes-Benz and Porsche led the charge, buoyed by what looked like long-awaited tariff relief.
On the other side of the Atlantic, the US dollar strengthened, seen by many investors as a sign that Washington had come out on top. But behind the euphoria, some analysts are waving red flags. ING and Danske Bank warn that the rally is built on sand. Their message? This is short-term optimism, not structural certainty. There's still massive ambiguity. Trump is known for ripping up deals overnight. Could he do it again? Key sectors like wine, pharma, and consumer goods still lack clear terms. And with Trump's emphasis on America first, there's no guarantee tariffs won't suddenly return if he feels the balance shifts. Meanwhile, hidden risks are emerging. European companies might pass new costs onto American consumers. That means price hikes for everything from Italian olive oil to German appliances.
So the question remains, did the market just buy into a sugar high, or is this really a stable new normal? This isn't just another trade agreement. It's a seismic shift in the global balance of power. By securing major tariff concessions and locking the EU into fixed terms, the US has tilted the scales firmly in its favor. European industries, already rattled by energy insecurity and defense gaps, may now become even more reliant on American gas, tech, and military support. But the ripple effects go far beyond Brussels. The deal sends an unmistakable signal to Beijing. Trump's trade doctrine is back, and it's bolder than ever. His message? Buy from us or pay the price. This new model of coercive commerce could redefine how deals are made across the globe, pressuring other nations to fall in line or face economic punishment. Now the world is watching. Will China accept similar terms? Can the EU find a path to autonomy? Or are we heading toward a future of fragmented trade blocs and hardened economic borders? This isn't just policy, it's power play on a global scale. Do you think this is a smart strategy or a dangerous gamble that could backfire? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like, subscribe and share so you won't miss what's next. Catch you in the next one.